Today, February 1st, 2011, Steve Coffey came out in a blizzard to trash me, the Times Union, Jim O'Donnell, the Hearst Corporation, and the New York Post on Talk 1300. So what was he so upset about? Nexium, of course, his biggest client. Listen now while I present the Coffey tapes.
Right. For no reason. We got an inch of snow.
Yeah, I know.
Deal.
I know, but this
I called you on your cell phone, which I will not put on the air.
Oh, that's okay. That's okay. My cell phone's not in here.
Oh,
that's
it's absurd.
That's okay. Put the phone down. Now, I got McLaughlin on at 8:30, so if you're here by then, we'll talk to him together.
Okay, so I only have half an hour?
That's all you're getting. I'm sorry, buddy. You're not here.
Oh.
That's all. You're cut down, but you get in here. We'll take care of you. Don't worry.
I'm coming in because there's something I want to talk to you about.
Well, I want to talk to you anyway, so come on in here and we'll talk.
Now, you want to talk about being embarrassing? I'm going to ask you, Vandenberg, because what is the biggest story over the weekend?
Egypt.
No.
Egypt.
You think so?
I agree with him.
Okay, now, okay?
Egypt.
In every major newspaper in the country, including the Gazette,
right,
Egypt was the #1 story on Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay, no question?
Right.
Well, on Sunday morning, in the Times Union, the capital newspaper,
oh boy,
you know the #1 story?
John, aren't you glad you're here?
Buried in trash, but
right.
That's bad enough. The Times Union and James O'Donnell was senior writer.
Right.
I mean, you talk about vindictive and petty. The #1 story in the Times Union Sunday morning
Nexium
is Nexium,
right?
About Keith Raniere.
Right.
Egypt is not mentioned
right
in the Times Union. How embarrassing is it?
Well,
when you come into this area,
I'll tell you what,
and you look at this and you say to yourself, this is the capital newspaper talking about a guy at a deposition station.
Yeah.
I understand. This is the Gazette, #1 story, Egypt. You read this, you shake your head and say, what a bunch of rubes we are. This is the capital newspaper, and we are talking about a guy at a deposition, I don't know, 10 years ago, and this is a senior writer. You showed vindictive, or, this guy Hearst, who's the editor. You tell me somebody's sitting there saying, I'm not putting this on page 1, and it's the stories. You got to go inside the paper to find out about Egypt. Egypt does not exist. Buried up the top. You know that phrase called burying the lead.
Right.
They bury the lead of Egypt. Chaos continues. Expatriates react here. A3, D1. They're telling you that the Egypt story is on D1.
Right. Not good.
I mean, you just look at
this
and say to yourself,
this.
What kind of a newspaper? This man Hearst, what kind of editors? It's absurd. So I said, you know what? Why don't you just write a column? If you want to be LeBron, if O'Donnell wants to write his own,
well, he does on Monday.
Op-ed,
it's usually about state
which
politics.
are actually pretty good.
Right.
Then fine.
I think so too.
That's fine. No problem.
Right.
But you're a newspaper. You're the legacy of Harry Rosenfeld, Fred Dicker, and other great reporters.
Right.
And you're putting this kind of stuff out.
Okay.
You're not embarrassed by this? The capital newspaper? Come on.
I will admit to you, I was a little bit surprised on Sunday there was no front page Egypt. I was really surprised.
Let me tell you about Egypt.
That surprised me.
In 1968,
right? You represent the Bronx.
I do a lot of work with Nixon. But even keeping my personal
okay, then you work with them, or you represent them?
Yes, I do.
Okay. I thought you represented the Bronx.
I do. They're connected in a lot of ways. But even with that, you've got to sit and say to yourself, in this area, I'm embarrassed by this.
Well, help me out a little bit here.
Because the landfill is the #1 story.
Well, hold on. I want to talk about next year. If I read the story Sunday in the TU, I didn't think there was anything there I didn't know already, was there?
No, it's
all been out there.
O'Donnell has made it a personal, vindictive, petty crusade of his, and he's got an editor who's letting him do this instead of saying to him, listen, we're not going page 1 of this, we're not going page 10 of this. There's nothing new here. This is not a story. No one cares. Monday morning, what were people talking about? Maybe they were talking about the landfill. This is a regional newspaper.
No, Egypt.
What do you say, yeah. Maybe Obama's response, and we're putting this stuff on the page.
What do you know about this that I don't? Is there Is somebody at the Times Union got an issue with this? Or, because I'll tell you, Steve, the one thing about the story of this Ranieri, you don't represent him, do you?
No, but you know, whether it's Ranieri or Smith or Jones, you're an editor of a newspaper. Your job not only is to sell newspapers, that's number one,
right?
And number two, inform the public.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me on which of those two counts this article accomplishes that.
Okay.
No one cares.
Okay. Adano at some point must have reached out to you for comments, right? You talked to him about
it? I didn't talk to him. I wouldn't talk to him. I don't want to talk to him.
Okay.
But even so, as you point out, there's nothing new in this article.
I didn't see anything. I read these articles. There was nothing in that story that I haven't read. Now,
this was not a slow news day. You're talking
Saratoga in here. We got to get some folks in to talk to Steve. They always want to. Johnny, how are you?
Hi, good. How you doing?
Good.
I guess I'm that crazy blogger up on Saratoga, and I was wondering if Steve might make any comments about any of the deposition and what was in it.
No, because
it's not 10 years old. Deposition was made in 2009.
Okay, so let me see. So you think that story is more important than Egypt? You do, but most people don't.
And Egypt is a worldwide story.
Oh, okay, all right, all right. So
go to a local newspaper.
Well, then I stand by that. Good. So you're the one person in the world who thinks that story is more important than Egypt. Congratulations.
Yeah, but John, a lot of mornings they do lead with national stories.
It's a national story.
International.
It's a capital newspaper. You are probably unique, and you have the right to your opinion. I don't deny that, but I would say you are unique in thinking that this story is more important than Egypt.
Well, I think there was room in the paper for both stories.
I'm talking about page one. I'm talking about page one.
Implications like, money laundering and...
I talked about page one. That's what I said. Which is the most important story? By the way, you are right. You hang people and you hung pictures. They was corrected. This blog corrected years.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm out of the loop here. John, you're a blogger?
Right.
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Okay. Saratoga in Decline, and I write about Next.
Oh, okay. All right. Oh, okay.
Every day.
I love your show, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry. There's so many bloggers, John. I can't keep all of you straight. I can't.
I get 3,000 hits a day when I write about Next.
Well, that's what you say. That's what you say. Well, that's what you say. You take your word for it.
Where are the hits? I mean, do you have any idea where all those hits are coming from? Because I don't.
Oh, yeah.
They're not coming from your kitchen. They're not coming from your kitchen, are they, John? They're not coming from your kitchen or your living room, are they?
No, they're not. I don't comment on my own blog except when I put my name down.
All right.
Okay. Hey, John, thank you. I'm not... Oh, are you familiar with him?
Very familiar.
Oh, okay. All right.
I want to point out...
I'm sorry, I'm kind of lost here.
He's somebody who's been blogging for... He can add a year and a half, whatever.
Okay.
And then he blogs and he writes.
Right.
Some of the stuff is pretty bad. But
oh, that's rough.
Oh, it's very rough. But my point, as I said before, was that they have a right to print this story.
Absolutely.
He's now told you,
the
crazy blogger, that he thinks this story should have been on page one.
Hey, tell me about...
And even if it is a 2009 deposition, this is 2 years ago.
I may be asking the wrong... I'm probably asking the wrong person, but I got to ask you. He says all these people are checking on next to him. Where are these people coming from?
Who knows? I mean, I
don't, Steve, I don't think I've ever gotten a call on Nexi.
No, listen.
Except when I had the girls
I can stand up and say...
I'm missing something here. I am. I'm missing something.
I have 5,000 people calling me every morning. You can sit there and say, my ratings are, 99%.
Right.
Ultimately, somebody says, well, how do you prove it? Because I told you that.
Joe?
Oh, good. Good morning, Paul. Hi. Just a couple of brief comments. I find it interesting how passionate your guest gets on issues of the type of coverage in the newspaper when he has an interest in the stories. And it kind of occurred during the Bruno case and the coverage there. And he has an interest in these stories. So it just kind of loses a little bit of the sincerity. And the other thing is...
That's a fair...
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm
an advocate. I don't deny that.
The TU, for people who are really interested in knowing what's going on in the world, they're not going to go to the TU. So,
the TU doesn't know that.
Well, what's that?
TU doesn't know that.
Paper. It's a local paper, and you're going on and on and on about why they chose to put one piece somewhere and not the other. And, it really does. When you have an interest in it, it kind of sounds phony.
Fine. That's fine. I said, and if you're going to quote me, make sure you're talking about my passion. Quote me correctly, all right? What I said to you was, and I said to all the listeners, that throughout the country, that my guess is that every major newspaper in every major capital in the country had Egypt on page 1. That's my statement, and I'm sticking to it. The Gazette had it on page 1.
I got 90 seconds.
So there you are.